everybody, and welcome to another episode of Lockbox Lunatics. I'm here, Steve Lambert, up in Kennewick, Washington, and my co-host there, Chad, down in Arizona. How you doing, Chad?
Doing well. Appreciate everyone for joining us today. How are you doing, Steve? Staying out of trouble?
I'm trying to, man. But that's
Full-time job, huh?
it's not. It's tough keeping track of me. I'll tell you from the person that's most intimately involved with that myself, right? And so,
Right.
but hey, I'm super excited because we have an awesome guest today. We have Ryan DePrill with us, and he's joining us from Chicagoland. So welcome, Ryan.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for
Welcome.
having me. I'm
I
excited to
appreciate
be here.
it. Since you're ahead of us in the time zone, just if you can get us those winning lottery ticket numbers, it'd be great.
Yeah. What's it up to now?
I don't even know. It's getting crazy numbers though these days. I'm
It
seeing like
is.
billions on this thing, and I'm
It
like,
was billions. I think it's up back up to a half a billion right now, or something of the sort.
insane.
So
That's insane.
thanks for the
I guess
reminder.
I can't complain
Yep.
about it. I don't play, so I'm not going to win, right?
Yeah,
But
that's my thought process. You can't lose if you don't play.
That's right.
Yeah,
something like that. I'm guaranteed to keep $10 in my pocket, right?
that's
Yeah.
right.
So hey, Ryan, really appreciate you joining us today. Excited about what you're going to bring to the table. But could you tell us a little bit about yourself and let our viewers know kind of a little bit about your background and where you are today?
Absolutely. Sure. Yeah. So I've been in the real estate business for a little bit over 20 years. Got in the business in around 2004. Sold real estate for a number of years. And then in 2011, 2010, 2011, I had a little brokerage and I shifted my attention from selling to coaching the agents and bringing new agents in and coaching them up. And that was around 2011. And through a course of 10 years, we grew to about 12 offices, north of $1 billion in annual production. Most of our agents came from not from outside the industry. We had just a real dynamic coaching platform and coaching program, and we built some of the biggest producers in the Chicagoland area to this day.
Nice.
And then in 2022, I was fortunate enough to sell my companies, and which I did, and that was at the end of 2022. And so now I'm here just enjoying retirement.
I love it. I love it. And yes, folks, he did say with a B, like a billion, a billion. That's
Yeah.
some serious volume right there. So you had a lot of cats, if you will, in agents, a lot of cats to herd, didn't you?
We did. It wasn't a tremendous amount though. It was probably about 280 agents,
Okay.
of which probably 30 to 40 of those agents had less than a year of experience,
Okay.
because we brought in a lot of new agents and just we could coach them up. And when you are coming from the mindset of a broker owner, right, you could recruit you have to grow the brokerage, right?
Yeah.
And I had the mindset I could make an agent in the same amount of time as I can recruit an agent. And we
I love
did, and we created the mold and we just kept reproducing that mold. So, about 280 agents, 50 of which had less than a year experience, and about 80% of our agents had probably, 5, 6 years of experience max.
That's
And
awesome.
yeah, so there was some really large production per agent. Um,
Couldn't even imagine those meetings. I try to corral just, five or six agents at one time in the same place, and it's almost impossible. So I can't even imagine
we
how you
had
keep
standing
track.
room. We had great meetings. We really did. We had tremendous turnout. We were very diligent about what our meetings were about. It was typically about production 80% of the time, and then
Right.
some market knowledge. I've witnessed some meetings, and a lot of it is transactional type stuff. And the transactional type stuff, I feel like could get answered in the day to day. I think yeah,
Right.
when you bring everybody together, it's important to corral everybody, talk about production, talk about best practices, talk about what, yields the biggest results for you, of the things that you're doing. I mean, what we're in sales, right? And I tell agents we don't sell homes. The homes will sell themselves. What we do is we create relationships. A certain amount of people in our networks have a need, and if you are there and you're doing the right things, our value we provide, I believe, is emotional intelligence to the marketplace,
Yeah.
and the consumer values that tremendously. The commissions and whatnot from the lawsuit and everything, they haven't changed. It wasn't any type of, in my opinion, cornering the market. An
Exactly.
individual is a real estate broker. They're willing to work for a certain amount, and the consumers want it. And if you have that relationship, they want that emotional intelligence, that EQ, and you holding their hand through the process. They truly value that. And it's what I tell our agents over and over again. Just go out there, as Larry Kendall will say, love on your network properly and
Yeah.
systematically, and the rest will really fall into place.
I love it. It's just those such great points, and it's so interesting that, I love what you hit on, and I love the fact that you kind of pivoted to say, hey, I'm coaching my people, right? Like, and the other two key things you said in there too is production and sales aren't bad words. They're not dirty words, right? And so I love the fact that, we often lose track of that in real estate because there's so many other shiny objects. People forget we are in sales at the end of the day. We're a sales organization, so
Yeah.
I
And,
do
and
love
and
that.
another point that you made that I appreciate as well is some of those transactional details can be dealt with on a day to day. I know agents will get polarized with, okay, well, I don't know exactly what next step is. Well, here's the thing. I can go over this, we can, as brokers, we can go over the steps with you. You're going to forget it whenever you get involved in that transaction to begin with, because there are so many different steps and angles that we have to be mindful of. And what good is it knowing all the steps if you don't have a client to exercise that knowledge with, right? So as brokers, our job is to make sure you go through those steps properly. And so it's very important that you have a broker that's willing to do that and be there every step of the way. As I tell my agents, you go find a client and just call me every step of the way and I'll guide you through this. And this is how you're going to learn. And I think it's so
Yeah.
important that agents don't get frozen in fear because they don't know exactly every letter of the contract before they write a contract.
Yeah.
So, Chad, I'll give you a little trick that I used to do when I was training the agents in the beginning, before I had managing brokers training the agents. One, on contracts and forms, say purchase agreement,
Right.
I'd tell the agent, here's the purchase agreement, go read it. I
Yep.
want you to come back tomorrow, and I want you to circle what you don't understand.
Yep.
Instead of reading, and I've watched so many people train it, they're reading to the contract to the agent, explaining
Oh,
it to them. I said, I need you to take initiative. I need you to read it. And then where you are confused, circle it. And you'd be surprised at how much they retain. And then when they were done with that, I'd say, okay, great. There'd be a listing agreement and whatnot. But then I'd say, okay, we have a purchase agreement. I want you to go and ask a friend out for coffee. I want you to take the friend out for coffee, and I want you to say, listen, I want to write up a purchase contract with you, and I want to explain it to you. And you are in a safe zone. You're with one of your friends,
yep.
but you're not with your manager broker, and you now have to explain. And so the philosophy that I had at our brokerage was each one teach one. And everything I repeat in these sayings I've read somewhere else, other great, right? And when you teach, you learn, right? So
Right.
so we created a philosophy of then agents coaching agents. We had loan officers coaching agents, and everybody was just kind of learning. So we had like this gigantic incubator of each one teach one. So even that basic philosophy, hey, you're a brand new baby, brand new real estate agent. We just went through it. You circled some questions. Now I want you to take a friend, go into safe zone, go to your coffee shop, and I want you to write up a contract with your friend and just pretend that they're the client and you're going to explain the purchase agreement to them. And they just start to take in so much more when they do that.
Yeah,
That's
that's
such a
that's
great way to do it.
valuable. Yeah.
That is so awesome. You brought up fear, right? And there's some news in our industry that's got some agents probably a little fearful right now, right? There's a big merger
Yeah.
happening here, or acquisition with Compass and Anywhere. And I know, Ryan, you and I touched upon that a little bit outside of this, and I'm seeing a lot of things and hearing a lot of questions from agents that are involved with these other organizations that are going to be acquired and brought in under this umbrella potentially here. That say, I'm not really sure what's going on, and I don't know how comfortable I am with this. And this is obviously the Compass Anywhere merger news. You're entrenched. You're in a large market. You're around a lot of agents. You've done a lot of coaching. You understand what kind of makes people think. I would like to get your thoughts on because this would become the actual biggest brokerage in the history of our real estate in the United States. And so,
Mhm.
is this something that you think is kind of good news for the industry, or good for the industry? I'm curious to get your thoughts on that.
It could go both ways. And it made me think about kind of what we're talking pre-show, and I kind of might bring up the last part because of how it could go both ways. So
Sure.
it depends. First off, the real estate agent in this situation is the consumer. right? In this particular situation.
Okay.
They're the consumer. They decide where do they want to go, where do I hang their license. When I had my brokerage, we were an independent brokerage, though we got up to 280 agents, which some people say that's a lot. Some people say it just depends, right, on what room you're in. We had a boutique feel. I knew everybody at the brokerage, and the agents joined our firm for our culture and our training. Now, that's not saying that's what it has to be, but that's just what we were and that's what we offered. And everybody is looking for something different. Now, as a real estate agent and the consumer that's buying or selling a home, choosing a real estate agent, they typically choose somebody based on who do they know, do they like, and do they trust them. That's really what it comes down to as an agent. And that's why I try to coach so many agents. Your network is your net worth. Your job is to love on your network and be friends with them, and then everything else will settle and take care of itself. Well, the same thing goes down with the brokerages. The consumer, in this case, now being the real estate agent, they're going to want to have a managed broker, somebody that they know, that they like, and they trust. So it depends on the agent's perspective. Um, Now, if in this situation, we have about 1.4 million real estate agents, I think, maybe a little bit less in the
Oh,
National Association of Realtors.
yep,
And I think Compass has 150,000 and Anywhere has 300,000.
yep,
So give or take 10, 20,000, I might be off a little bit, but you're talking about one third of the industry.
yeah,
And that's unprecedented. Now, if Robert Refkin gets his way of clear cooperation, for anybody who doesn't understand that, what that is, it's them not having to put their listings on the MLS. I feel that's really bad for the consumer, but I think it's even worse for the agents. And I don't think the agents recognize kind of perhaps a beast that they could be creating if they allow that to move forward. And so I think that might be one of those things people might not recognize until it happens. Like, wow, we just painted ourselves into a corner. So it could go either way, but the scales weigh for me, in my just opinion, more towards the not so good than the good.
yeah. And I can see that you hit on two great things there, which is the consumer in this case being the agent, and then kind of the general public buyer, and the push by Compass to kind of remove a lot of that clear cooperation, right? And that's something that is so paramount to what we stand on. It's part of our ethics, our principles of everything we do, which is falling into, equal housing, the availability of houses to be seen by everybody for people to be able to, play in the real estate game, right? And this is kind of seemingly going against every bone in my body on this one, because we're taking and we're limiting choice for the general public. When I'm Joe buyer or seller and I want to have a house listed, or I want to go find a house, I'm not able to see everything unless I go through a really specific system, which just seems so anti-choice to me, right?
It is, and it's baffling to me, quite honestly. It is such a violation of fair housing,
Mhm.
and as being in the business for 20 years, right, and having real estate brokerages, lawsuits come, and I'm no stranger to those. And I will tell you them, these attorneys, they are trolls. And whether you are the safest and most genuine individual out there, wow, are you opening yourself up? And wow, are they going to come out? And then there's those bad actors that are
Right.
discriminatory, and this is going to allow it to them. So, the National Association of Realtors has a job to do, and it's to stand up for these ethics. And it needs to be nipped in the bud. I do applaud Zillow with what they try to do, or what they're still trying to do, and then the fair housing is one thing, right? But then the control that the agents, it will be a seismic shift of control. The agents have been for the past 40 plus years in control.
Yeah.
Uh, when you have one brokerage that has, you know, a third of the marketplace, and they have, pocket listings or whatever you want to come that are not MLS, that agent, that now that brokerage is dictating to the agent. It's not the other way around. It
Right.
doesn't have to be, but in these early times, agents really need to educate themselves the advantage they have with a free and open market. And
Oh
when
yeah.
you create a, you know, when you create what kind of market, a private market,
Mhm.
um, uh, transparency is eliminated. and you're opening yourself up to many things. One of which too is that sees of your control of being the business owner, because majority of the business is coming from our network. But if your network loves you and wants to work with you, but there's this really big company in their area that has listings that are not in MLS, you're like, I really like you, friend, but I really want you there. And then you really want them there. You're no longer dictating your terms, the brokerages. So
Yep.
we
Yeah,
could
there's
talk
a
for
lot of
hours.
levers. There's a lot of levers being pulled
There
right now,
is.
right? There's some, and those levers are going to shift. Like, and
It's a very important topic.
yeah,
And the liability that the agents as well as the brokers will be taking on from a limited door representation position,
Oh,
I don't think they're recognizing
no.
that lawsuit's gonna come along down the road for that, right? And
Look,
so how does one protect themselves from that, you know?
the seismic lawsuit that happened in Missouri, and then to me, unfortunately, they settled on this ridiculous case was, the
Right.
listing agent was, paying the brokerage, and then the brokerage was splitting with the cooperating agent. Now, in hindsight, they said, okay, what they're doing now, listing agent, you pay this and that, and I know we got to be careful on how we speak about this, but but it's transparent. Okay,
Yeah,
that has
yeah.
always been transparent in my opinion. Every seller, that's why commissions we haven't seen change because sellers know what they're doing, they know what they're getting into. But geez, now you're talking about off-market properties that other people didn't see. You think you saw lawsuits. We haven't seen anything
Oh yeah.
if the elimination of clear cooperation goes away. It's
well,
it's
this
bad.
takes an yeah, this takes an industry that was, for the most part, has been working well for everybody since what, 1996 is when that really became in, based upon the 92 lawsuits of the with the DOJ and everybody else stepping in saying, buyers aren't getting represented because they can't afford. And then we came up with a system that actually worked, and it worked really well. Kind of blew that to pieces. And I feel like now it's back to this Wild West. And you mentioned bad actors, to where, man, I'm seeing some crazy things happen in the back end. Now we're
Mm,
going to take that and we're going to take it off the MLS. So we're going to tell you you can only find it over here. So we're going to kind of force you into our funnel, and we
yeah,
want you in our system.
yeah,
And we're going to have you sign a bunch of paperwork that's probably really biased towards protecting our interests and not
yeah.
yours. And we're going to tell you that it's a great deal. And think about like smaller marketplaces, where, because Anywhere controls a lot of brands, right? There's going to be areas out there, not just a few of them, where they are the only game in town, and consumers truly are not going to have a choice. They're going to be, because I see this as Compass. I don't think is going to let these companies just play on their own. I think they're going to overlay what they want to see, which is controlling the listing side of it. Because,
Yeah.
like you said, they want to fight the Zillow of the world. They want to fight the NAR. That's widely known. I'm not putting any breaking news out there on that, but
And
that
these companies just provide transparency. Excuse me, for
yep.
cutting you off, right? I mean, yes, Zillow has listings and there's somebody else's listings and they're making money off that. But again, the consumer has it. The IDX is, and that's the best way for it to be. I apologize for cutting you
No,
off.
no, you're fine, because you're spot on. The consumer has the ability to see everything,
Yeah.
to see what's going on in the marketplace, and that to me is what it should be about. And I feel like we're embarking upon a really kind of dangerous path with something like this, to where we're forcing consumers to have to pick and choose. Like you said, maybe, hey Ryan, I love you, man. You're my best buddy and you're a great agent and I want to work with you, but Chad's over at this place that not only do they have the MLS stuff, but he's got apparently a third of the listings within our area, apparently, according to him, are only available to him. So I mean, you're not
Well,
seeing everything, and so I really want to make sure I'm making the best choice and seeing everything I can. So I'm going to go work with Chad.
right.
So now
Well,
Ryan's right, Agent Ryan's like, shoot, I got to go join this brokerage now.
That's right. And
That's
now
not
I'm not
really
dictating
what.
my split with that brokerage anymore, which right now and for the past 30 years, agents, you have been. Now, like, well, yeah, absolutely would love to have you. Here's how it works here.
Yeah, right.
yeah.
And I will tell you, you look at the commercial market,
Mhm.
right? The big players out there. I won't name them,
Yeah,
but they're in control. And
absolutely.
they're
Yes.
they're 50-50 splits out there. And it's normal for big people doing millions and millions of dollars of real because it's a controlled environment. Agents, I don't think really know what's coming their way that aren't paying attention to clear cooperation.
Yeah, and I think the optics on this, or at least, and I wouldn't say optics, but the time frame that we'll see this shift. First off, it's got to get approved. right? And I don't see where there's going to be any objections to getting all the approvals that it needs for this transaction to go through. And I think they're expecting it to close sometime the end of next year. So agents have a little bit of time to digest this. And right now, they're going to go ahead and put the front up that, hey, you're still going to have choice, but at some point in time in the future, that hammer is going to drop from Compass, and that compliance with, the how they want to see their listings represented in the marketplace, they're going to drop that hammer. And so this discussion, we won't, my personal opinion, understand that. I don't see we're going to see this have an impact on us for a few years, a couple years, 2, 3 years down the road. But this is something that agents need to, in my opinion, need to start planning for and be thinking about, and getting ready to identify how they're going to address this situation moving forward. A lot of folks have sat and complained about, Compass's decision, and now they realize the company they've been at, where they've been complaining, now they're going to have to follow Compass's guidelines, and we're going to see, we'll see whether they put their money where their mouth is. That'll be interesting to see whether they
Yeah.
make that transition away from them, or if they're just going to suck it up and stay on board.
Yeah, I mean, the sale isn't, not to happen until the end of 2026.
Right.
But again, the SEC didn't allow JetBlue to buy, Spirit Airlines,
Mm.
Right.
and that's a fraction of the airline industry. Like, maybe a larger fraction of the low budget, but it's a fraction. Though JetBlue, I don't think is low budget. But regardless, I'm talking out of turn here. I'm not sure all that familiar with the airline
No,
industry.
I think you're spot on. This has the makings of a monopoly to almost
One third of the market.
every definition of the word. I mean, when you just look at agent count, I mean, just if you just look at, like you said, taking a third of all people and shifting it into one spot, and then and I'm not going to try and upset any Refkin fans here, and I don't mean to, but I would say that he's made it fairly clear on what his goals are. So I would expect, if I'm with an affiliated company, that there's going to be an overlay on how we conduct our business and how our listings are put forth.
Yeah. And also, since you said, let me make it clear, I'm not saying anything negative about him, right? I just think I'm saying something negative about the decision he's making. There's people that I idolize, people that I look up to, but there's also things that they've done that I disagree with. And I just think this opens us up. This is in complete in the face of fair housing, number one.
Absolutely. Yeah, this is where I see the buyer seller general public being really harmed by something like this. This is
Why do
not
we have equal housing opportunities and fair housings if you allow this? I mean, if that's the case, then just get rid of that stuff.
exactly. Yeah, I agree 100%. If this goes through, blow those rules out there and just make it free for all, because and that's where, boy, man, like you said, the lawsuits, I see them, boy, will they just pile up down the road, and poor consumers
Pandora's
on all this,
box.
like, not only the agents, but the buyer sellers. Boy, I think that's a sad day, because this is something that is harming the general public in the real estate industry. This is going to not give the general public what the dream of home ownership, right? This seriously takes a pretty big hit to that whole idea.
Yeah, that's why I'm surprised, and maybe it's happening in the background, but from what I read and whatnot, that I haven't seen the companies, the institutions that are the advocates and the defenders of fair housing, right? And I don't know who the names of them don't come to my mind, right? But they're large, DC that they aren't screaming from the top of their roofs right now.
Yeah,
And
it's
they,
been very quiet, and maybe because they're looking at it saying, just from a quick surface glance at this, there's no way this happens. It's great fodder right now. It's grabbing some headlines, and there's no way that this ever goes through. And maybe
you're
that,
talking about clear cooperation.
yeah, clear. Well, with the with the
Well,
company.
not even the merger. It's the clear cooperation is what I'm referring to, right? The
Oh, okay,
merger is
sure.
one thing, but if the merger occurs and they allow clear cooperation, that's a recipe for disaster.
Oh, 100%.
And so I think clear cooperation, merger or no merger, I'd be having the same, if this announcement didn't come, I'd be talking about the exact same thing about clear cooperation. I think it's a total violation of fair housing, and I'm just surprised that the advocacy groups have not been. I mean,
Right?
it doesn't. It's I'm dumbfounded.
Yeah, where are they when this
There
is
are
coming? This is
what is going
we're
on
a
here?
week into this announcement, roughly a week into this announcement, and like you said, it's been crickets on that side of it, and
Well, we're months though into the clear cooperation
oh yeah,
narrative. That's what I'm referring to. Like, you know what I mean? And the lawsuit that they're suing Zillow. Like, what are you? This is I'm not a part of the National Association of Realtors anymore. I was been licensed realtor forever, but my wife sells and I don't sell anymore, so I'm no longer a member, right?
okay,
But
yeah,
the association, right, it has a duty, right, to the general public and to the industry. Uh, I again, I'm dumbfounded that these topics aren't. I've watched people speak to them, right?
yeah,
But I would think this would be when you see the Inman emails coming out, you think these would be some of the headlines that you would
right, right, no, 100%.
Exactly.
Well, I'm up in here in the
Exactly.
Northwest MLS, and they decided to shut Compass off there when Compass decided to do their private, and they're being sued by Compass, right? And so.
and good for them though. That's what you have to. I think that you have to stand for something, and I think
Right.
that's standing for right.
Yeah, and they sat there and said, "Hey, we believe everybody should see everything that's available in the marketplace." I love that.
Yeah.
And so, no, we're gonna shut you off briefly. And so, of course, that created a bit of a storm um and an outcry from their agents, of course, during that time frame. But like you said, I'm wondering where those voices are on this, because the entire basis of the lawsuits, if we go back to the commission suits and all that, was about what? Transparency at the basis of everything. We want, hey, you guys aren't being transparent. We need to have transparency, right? Transparency is paramount. It's tantamount. It's what we're basing this entire lawsuit off of and what we're finding it on. And we're saying, hey, you didn't do that. And yet, like you said, moving forward, it's not getting better with these recent developments. It's not getting better at all, right? And it's mind blowing to me because I'm in the same school of thought as you, Ryan, where I've always had conversations about commission. I don't know anybody that's gone to a listing appointment where the seller sat there and never mentioned, hey, by the way, what do you charge?
Yeah.
Really? Like that's I don't see that. That's an integral part of the entire conversation. I don't and so if somebody was at a place where they never had to have a conversation, man, wow, God bless you, because I've never been in this, I've never been in those
Does
shoes
happen.
before, and I've been doing this since 2011, right? And
Right.
so it's fascinating to me, but yeah, it's really gonna press a lot of buttons, and boy, I just don't think they're so great, you know?
Yeah, again, there's going to have to be voices that you know have to turn up the volume a little bit and saying, hey, this is wrong,
Yeah,
and this conversation needs to be off the table.
yeah,
Yeah.
And I think they need to do the right thing and say, you know what, um, it's just not going to work. If you want to have fair housing, if you want to protect people, and you don't want to create. And when I say protect people, not even the consumer, the agent too,
yeah,
from the lawsuits, the slippery slope. Like this needs to be off the table.
yeah, yeah. Well, Ryan, we've taken a bit of your time. I really appreciate your
Thank you
insight
for
and
having me.
opinions on this, man. I mean, this has been phenomenal. Really appreciate you taking the time to join us today, and it's been awesome. I just insightful, and for those of you that are out there, follow Ryan, check out what he's doing. He's got some really cool stuff going on. He's kind of he's innovating as always, right? He's going to push the envelope, and he's doing cool stuff. Phenomenal coach as well. So I mean, just thank you so much. Really appreciate
Thank
it.
you. Thanks for having me. Hope to be back with you guys someday soon.
No, appreciate you coming on board. And there again, those our viewers. If you would go ahead and like, comment, and share this podcast, always try and bring some value to you. And I think today was a very valuable. So, Ryan, I really appreciate your time on this. It'll be interesting to see how this all plays out in the future. But as far as the viewers are concerned, we'll catch up with you next week. Thanks for your time.